$180,000 gross income on 1.5 acres. Impressive until you see where all of the money goes. Can you make a living on a small farm? Honestly, I'm not so sure. Taylor Mendel, 7 years into her farming career in Vermont, 1.5 acres under production.
We grossed somewhere between $170,000 and $180,000. And that's a number.
In the vegetable world, $100,000 to $120,000 gross per acre is considered excellent. It's really good. Footprint Farm is above that metric, yet they're still not financially sustainable.
What's really important is our net or our take home, which I've learned is very difficult to actually express.
Here's the reality that most farms never share. Owners rarely count their own labor as an expense. When they do the math, 50 to 60 hours of work a week at minimum wage, that's $78,000 of unpaid subsidy built into their farm business model. Math doesn't work.
Farm pays our mortgage and our electricity. So it's hard to get a full picture of how much money we are actually taking home. So when we first started writing ourselves monthly checks, it was $1,000 a month, but that's for both of us. So $500 each. And that's grown. So last year it was $1,500, but for next year, we're going to be paying ourselves $1,800 a month.
After paying employees, supplies, infrastructure, and operating costs, Taylor and her husband each take home about $900 a month. At 60 hours a week, that's $375 per hour. That's it. They tried to grow more, push for higher revenue, but more crops meant more stress without proportional income gains.
I think I used the word burnout for the first time this year. I've never actually said it about myself, but I definitely said that I hit burnout this year. I have a memory of sitting on the floor in the kitchen and feeling like I just couldn't stand up to stir whatever was cooking on the stove. It was just complete exhaustion. And at a certain point, a lack of will to do it again tomorrow, to play the game again tomorrow, as they say. For some reason, the burnout really centered around these storage carrots. And there are so many emotions wrapped up in these storage carrots. And we're trying to really look at what was the situation that made us feel that way and how can we get around it? Can we hire somebody else? Maybe we don't grow as many storage carrots. Maybe we do something else. What was it about the storage carrots that was so defeating for us? And that was what got so stressful, is that these dangling stresses that just wouldn't leave us alone.
The storage carrots became a metaphor. Too much work, not enough profit, no time to deal with them.
When we were neglecting those storage carrots, it was because we were putting attention into our farmers market stand, because we knew, okay, we have to hit $2,000 this week. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to make that money that we said we needed to make in order to take care of ourselves.
The classic diminishing returns every small farm hits. The big question: can this model support real life?
If we have a kid, that means that one of us is out of the field. So would we have to replace that time by hiring somebody else, or would we pay for childcare? Can we pay for childcare? So those are the questions that I'm asking right now.
$1,800 a month combined. Childcare costs $1,500. That math doesn't work.
We're in our 30s and we just opened our first Roth IRAs, and that means that we've lost a lot of earning potential in a retirement account.
And retirement, the traditional exit strategy for a lot of people, is sell the farm. That might not exist anymore.
As a firm, we're putting in money into the equity of our land, the equity of our equipment and our buildings. But I look at our farm and I'm not sure what the resaleability of it is. I'm not sure this building that we've built to work and live in is very specific to our operation. And could I resell this piece of land and keep it as a farm? It's really built to our personalities. And can we find somebody who would want to buy this business? I don't really know. And so I'm hesitant to put my retirement on this hope that I can sell my assets.
Custom infrastructure with limited buyers, specialized operations, that's all part of it. Yes, the farmland in Vermont does appreciate, but that's locked into equity. It's not cash flow. So being asset rich and cash poor, that doesn't help you pay for groceries or health care. So what actually moves the net? There's three practical levers. Mix shift, higher margin crops for your specific market. Channel mix, more pre-sold CSA, less volatile markets. Process cuts, standard operating procedures, templates, and systems efficiency. They're not silver bullets to fix everything. They're just practical levers that you can pull to try and make a difference and increase your bottom line. Why don't we hear these numbers?
I've since learned how little farmers are willing to share real numbers. Have been sort of co-opting conference workshops for years. I go to all the financial workshops and try to find out how much money the presenters are actually taking home, or, what kind of life can I actually expect to provide myself? And I haven't been able to get that number. And I think that that Instagram post came from that frustration of this lack of understanding of what it's like to be a farmer and how much is hidden from the rest of the world for some reason.
We celebrate the photos. We rarely share the profit and loss. Can you make a living on a small farm? Honestly, I'm not sure. I sat on a panel yesterday and spoke to a room packed full of movers and shakers in Vermont's food system and said just that. Our farm is looked at as, quote, successful. Sure, we're technically profitable, but at what cost? The stress and uncertainty is more than many people can handle, and I'd argue that even profitable, small farms are not always sustainable or replicable. An entire room of Vermont food system leaders had never heard a farmer say what Taylor said. We're technically profitable, but at what cost?
For me to hear that this room full of people who have been meeting for years and years had never heard that perspective was shocking.
Three real lessons from 7 years of farming. Lesson one, gross income does not equal the net income.
I would want them to know how much money they need to make rather than how much money they think they can make.
So you need to think about this in a different way. Start from your required take home pay. What do you need to bring home at the end of the year? And then work backwards. Think about your personal needs plus overhead, and then divide that by your target margin. And that'll give you the required gross revenue or gross income you need to bring into the business. You can then apply some sort of sensitivity analysis to it at a 10% margin, at 15, at 20, to get a feel for how things fluctuate. So say you think you're going to make 25% on that Salanova. Well, what if we only make 15? How does that change the numbers? The whole key here is you're thinking about this, playing around with it on a spreadsheet, and you know your numbers, especially what you need to make and what you want to make. Lesson two, define your version of making a living. I can't stress this enough. If you don't know how much you need to make or how much you want to make for the style of life that you want to live, how are you going to try and put an actual business to it to support it?
What does making a living mean to you? And really think about if that's possible on your scale. Because it is possible to make a living on a farm, but what making a living is to me is going to be different than what it is to anybody else. I know plenty of farms who've been successful and are now almost to retirement age, but in order to do it, they were maxing out credit cards. They didn't go out to dinner for 10 years. Is that how you want to do it? Because if it is, then that's awesome, but commit to that. Or do you value being able to go on a vacation every year? If you do, value that and own that, but put a number to it.
Some farmers end up reaching and maxing out credit cards. They skip dinners out for a decade. Is that really the plan or pathway you want to go down? Own it, whatever you want to do, but decide consciously. Lesson 3, location sets limits.
Jake keeps saying, but remember, they have this population base that's like their one city is as big as our entire state. We just don't have the people to buy that amount of food. And I think, okay, that's right. When you're looking at other farms' models and you're thinking, oh, well, it worked for them, it's really important to remember what's your land base look like and what's your market look like, because odds are they don't match up.
Design within your local demand, not what Instagram says is possible or what that fancy online course says is possible. Population density, market saturation, the customer base, these are all very real things in every market, and these will set your ceiling for how much you can make. Do your research and know it before you start. So, can you make a living on a small farm? After 7 years, Taylor's answer remains, honestly, I'm not sure. Don't ask, can I gross $200,000 or $300,000? Ask, what will it take to net a life I can sustain here in my market with my margins and my limits? It's important to know your individual context. Again, not what somebody else says is possible, what's actually possible for you and your area.
I want you to know that you're not the only person feeling that way. You're not alone in this.
And the question, it still isn't answered. But at least we know now the right questions to ask to work towards that solution of if you can make a living on a small farm. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it sheds a realistic light on what the real world of small-scale market farming looks like, and I hope it gets you thinking. Let me know what you thought about this video in the comments below. You can listen to the full-length interview with Taylor using a link below. I always appreciate you guys watching. Let me know what you think of the videos. I love making them, and I really, truly hope they help you in your career or help you avoid this path altogether if you want to make it a career, because it's hard. It's not for everyone. But thanks for watching. As always, until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.